what do I want around here? So I just saw this pretty cool movie called Permanent, and it stars Rainn Wilson, also Patricia Arquette, and this young actress by the name of Keira McLean. Essentially, it takes place during sometime in 1982 in a small town in Virginia, and it all happens when all these different things happen because the family, they relocate from Washington D.C. and they pretty much like struggle with the different life changes, and of course, but it all starts when their daughter Orly, and that's spelled Aurelie, Orly. It's supposed to be a French name, but so their daughter, she decides that she wants to get a permanent, for whatever reason, because she thinks that, it'll give her nice flowing curls, and like a lot of the famous actresses at the time, and of course they can't afford to pay, for her to get a permanent professional perm done, so they go to a beauty school, and where they just have to pay, I think it's like something like $20, but then of course the woman that does the permanent on the daughter, of course she messes up because something happens where either she leaves in these chemicals or something for a little too long, and so then Orly's Herrick turns out to be like just really puffed up, poofy, and almost like a poodle or something, and then so of course she starts freaking out because the next day, it turns out she's supposed to start school. It's her first day of school the next day, and so of course naturally, when she goes, and as soon as she gets on the bus to school, all the kids on there make fun of her. They pick on her, call her names, and of course it's no better once she actually gets to school and in class, and they just continue to pick on her, which really sucks. I mean, for me, it reminded me of, because since this takes place in the 80s, it definitely reminded me of, it was like a harsh reminder, at least for me. I feel like it could be for other people too. Just like how cruel kids really can be. Not only that, but just the fact that, back then, for me, I mostly grew up in the 80s and 90s, and during the 90s is when I went to school, like public school. I don't know if it's the same in private school. I think it might kind of be. I don't know about today, but back then, I know in the 80s and 90s, and even before that. But for me, during the 90s, I remember when other kids and students and classmates would pick on each other over the most stupid stuff, like just because, if even like one hair was out of place on someone's head and it was sticking up for whatever reason, they'd make fun of that person, they'd call him like alfalfa or whatever. But yeah, so this movie was a reminder of that for me, because there were certain scenes where like the kids, they didn't even hold back, they just kept teasing her, and it was like, to me, it got to the point where it felt like they were just doing it just because they were bored. Not even necessarily because they actually hated her, just because they were bored. And so yeah, obviously I know kids get bored easily, but yeah, I don't know, just for me, it's just, it was a very realistic depiction, again, of just how cruel how cruel kids can be. But I mean, luckily, orally, she eventually, she learns to deal with it. She learns to not necessarily tolerate it, but stick up for herself. She ends up taking this karate class with her parents, which initially it looked like the guy who was conducting the karate class didn't really know what he was doing. Which I guess, technically he didn't, but still, eventually, after enough times, eventually orally, and her parents, they got used to going to this karate class, and, eventually it helped orally to stand up to, the kids, the other kids that were picking on her, especially her, some of the other girls mostly. It was mostly the other girls that picked on her the most. But yeah, and then at the same time too, her dad, who was played by Rainn Wilson, he's going through this transition as well, because he used to be some kind of steward on Air Force One, and so he got to meet presidents Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, I believe Richard Nixon as well. And then one day he got fired because something happened where Ronald Reagan, while on Air Force One, he wanted a steak, and he went to the kitchen area on Air Force One, and there was no steak. There was nothing but pork chops in the freezer. And I don't know, supposedly that's why he got fired or something, or maybe it was one of many other things that led to him being fired, or I don't know. But then, and then he decides to go back to school, but then in order to do this, I don't know, something to do with, I want to say he decides to major in physical education or something like that. I don't know. It's never really made clear in the movie. I don't remember. But so then he has to take some kind of swim class or something like that. Swimming class. Which he doesn't mind, but at the same time he's afraid to do it because he has a toupee on his head, and it's supposed to be expensive, and he doesn't want to get it wet. So he struggles with that. And then the mom, played by Patricia Arquette, she's the breadwinner of the family. So she ends up working at this place called Captain Chicken, and of course, a regular stressful restaurant kind of job, and she doesn't like it. And then she discovers that she wants to, all of a sudden, she realizes that she wants to create something in, just something that'll, or in other words, just do something that'll make her happy. So she decides that she wants to become an artist. She decides to take lessons from their neighbor, who's this much older gentleman, and who ultimately ends up hitting on her, and is, so I mean, I guess I would say this is primarily a comedy, but also family drama, but more lighthearted family drama. There's nothing too serious addressed in this. I mean, other than just bullying, and the fact that, how to deal with kids that are constantly bullying one another. And I mean, other than that, it's just, there's a lot of hilarious moments in this. There's actually a handful of scenes that actually made me laugh out loud. Where there's one of the teachers the teacher is supposed to be Orly's teacher. She's pregnant, but she's still teaching, and so she's, every opportunity she gets, she makes sure to point out to the kids that she's pregnant and she doesn't want to deal with their BS, so yeah, I mean, she was just one of many of the characters in this that made me laugh out loud. And ultimately, I would say it's mostly primarily a story about just being yourself, learning to stick up for yourself, and just, accepting the fact that not everybody is going to like you, not everybody's going to accept you for who you truly are, but that doesn't matter, because you should still be yourself always. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, that's an awesome message to get across. So I definitely recommend this movie to everyone. As far as the rating goes, I'd give it like 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, 8.5. The ending was pretty good too. The ending is just more of a feel-good kind of ending. It's, not really like a big kind of resolution, or, well, I guess maybe it kind of is, but, because it's supposed to be realistic at the same time. I think in a sense, almost like hyper-realistic too. But I mean, it was okay, I really have no complaints otherwise. All the performances were pretty great, I feel. So, yeah. I give it, that's why I give it 8.5 out of 10. I mean, again, I believe everyone should watch this. It's, it's not your typical kind of, lighthearted family kind of movie. It's, I mean, just for the fact alone that it addresses bullying in a realistic way, that for me makes it stand out from all the other lighthearted family dramas. So, yeah. So, yeah, that'll do it for my review of Permanent. Once again, I give it 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.